Welcome to Building the Future, hosted by Kevin Horick. With millions of listeners a month, Building the Future has quickly become one of the fastest rising programs, with a focus on interviewing startups, entrepreneurs, investors, CEOs, and more. The radio and TV show airs in 15 markets across the globe, including Silicon Valley. For full showtimes, past episodes, or to sponsor the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com.
This segment was brought to you by Aurum Capital. If you are thinking about exiting or succession with a business today, you are joining a growing number of owners also considering the same alternatives. And if you've already heard that news, then you know exits or successions can be challenging, unless you can facilitate a recipe ahead of time and make your company prominent to attract attention and maximize your enterprise value in the broadest market. Anticipate and facilitate with Aurum Capital Connect today. For more information, please visit aurumcapconnect.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Steve Bigari. He's the CEO and chairman at SYNQ3 Restaurant Solutions. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kevin. Good to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. I think what you guys are doing at SYNQ3 is actually really innovative and cool. But maybe before we get into all that stuff, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with where you grew up.
Great. Well, I was born in the UP of Michigan,
Okay.
and then moved to Milwaukee as I was growing up, and was able to go to West Point where I graduated, and then moved out here to Colorado. So,
Okay. What did you take at West Point and why?
well, like my entire story, you couldn't make it up. I actually got a scholarship to Brown. I was playing football at Brown and couldn't afford to eat. So if you can't eat, you can't play football.
Right.
So I went to Army just thinking it was free, and I fell in love with it, and and graduated from there. Served as a captain in the military, and then that's where the story really got interesting and how I got into restaurants.
Okay. So do you want to walk us through that journey?
Yeah, my oldest daughter was born with a significant medical issue, so I spent a great deal of time in Ronald McDonald houses. And once your life is changed by that, you want to help other people. So I helped build the Ronald McDonald House here and got very
wow.
Yeah, it was a great project. And then when I decided to get out of the Army because my daughter needed operations that the military could handle.
Okay.
And I was recruited by a bunch of Fortune 100 companies, and the local operator, a guy who had been the president of McDonald's International and opened 63 countries for McDonald's, a guy named Brent Cameron, who was a legend at McDonald's, said, "Hey, you should come and run my company." And I laughed and said no. And long story short, I wound up coming back around and started to operate McDonald's restaurants for him. And that's really what brought me here.
Okay, interesting. So what made you finally say yes to him and then start working at McDonald's?
You know, he was offering me, it was interesting because he said, "You're at this big Fortune 100 company, you're going to be a stiff in a Brooks Brothers suit, and I'll let you run a great company. And that's what you want to do." And when I got there, I realized he was right. So I called him and I said, "Hey, are you still looking for that, filling that position?" And he said, "I'm a patient guy. You're the right guy. So I've been waiting."
That's cool though.
It was awesome. It was, he was just one of those legendary mentors in your life, was just a brilliant man. And it really helped shape my everything about how I lived my life. So he was tragically killed climbing Maroon Bells with his wife. And then I got into the equity end of the business at McDonald's and grew very quickly. And, we did some amazing things together at McDonald's, a great run. I was privileged to chair the innovation team there and as an operator and work with legends like Tom Ryan and Mott Slaterhausen. And so I just learned a lot.
Sure. The other thing, like I worked at McDonald's when I was in my teens. The one, like, other than all the stereotypical stuff that you've read about and people have said about like working in fast food and like teamwork and all that stuff that you learn. The one thing that I really think about a lot is like, it really made me decide if you wanted to like work with the general public or not. And I'm not saying one choice is better than the other, but I really think everybody should work in like fast food, even if it's for like a few months or whatever, just to understand and experience what it's like to work with the general public, because there's a lot of pros, there's a lot of cons, and a bunch of in between, right? And you really figure out whether that's for you or not for you at all. Do you agree, or what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think it's a great perspective, and I think it opens up many other opportunities. I mean, so many people I know are McDonald's operators and executives today. But even think about my journey. I was speaking at a local college, University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, to a class of about 250 marketing people, where I found my co-founder of SYNQ3, who was a junior. And
interesting.
I opened that class with, who here would like to work at McDonald's? And he's the only one who raised his hand. And then I said, who here would like to own a McDonald's? And everybody raised their hand. So I brought him on as a junior to work for me as an unpaid intern, and he became the co-founder of SYNQ3 and solved some amazing problems. So I think that, it's more than, it's everything you said, and the opportunity of a lifetime. It really is a cool company that, helps people find the American dream.
Sure. So walk us through coming up with the idea for SYNQ3, and what exactly is it?
Yeah, so it started as a solution for the drive-through. So I'm chronically ADHD and never satisfied with anything. So, we could climb Pikes Peak and then I'd pat you on the back and say, hey, let's go get Everest. Let's go. Never happened. So we had already set a number of drive-through records. I have a dear friend at Chick-fil-A, and the only place I could beat him was in the drive-through. So I became intently focused on the drive-through and setting the drive-through world record. And I remember realizing that I had to get more lanes in, and started to put in multiple lanes and then a triple lane. Well, we couldn't answer those calls. And so I brought in all these learned engineers and brilliant people and said, I want to stick that speakerphone into a speaker post. And everybody said, you're crazy. And then Matt, who's my co-founder, said, I could do that. And he created this ridiculous, like mousetrap type scenario that pulled it off. And as a consequence of that, our drive-through restaurants were the highest volume in the system.
Wow.
We set and still hold the drive-through world record of 374 cars in 1 hour through one window. And we did that by,
that's a ton. Like, as somebody that worked drive-through, that's a ton. Like, what was the record before that?
Oh, it's in the hundreds.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to guess. It's got to be less than half of that.
Yeah. Less than half. But the key to it was being able to take those orders remotely and take 3 at a time. So we did that through a call center. And that was really kind of the first half of our journey, was drive-through call center. And then some really great iconic brands came along, CPK first, California Pizza Kitchen, and then many, many others. Now we're fortunate to have great clients, like 30 marquee clients. And really it became then about making off-premise more frictionless. And this was something that had a great growth trajectory since we really shifted to more a tech focus in 2014.
Okay.
And that's when SYNQ3 was born out of, at the time, the McDonald's call center, which had a different name. And we really became, it was funny, the whole thing was instigated by a visit I had with Truett Cathy before he passed at Chick-fil-A. And he thought it was so cool that I was this drive-through hamburger guy.
Okay.
And he was such an iconic leader. Getting to meet him was one of the privileges of my life. Wow. And he told Matt and I this whole story about when he was at the Dwarf House, and he knew all of his customers by name. And he told us this amazing story. And Matt and I kind of looked at each other and said, with the data and predictive analytics and AI, we could replicate what he was able to do at the Dwarf House. And so we
Interesting.
set about doing that. And that's what SYNQ3 is today.
Okay. So for people that don't know what that is, what exactly does that mean, and what solutions do you provide the restaurant industry?
So we are primarily focused in providing voice ordering solutions to the restaurant industry for takeout, catering, whatever. And also, it's all restaurants all the time. That's all we do.
Okay.
We do it with humans and AI and hybrids. So the fusion of AI, predictive analytics, and humans in what I think is the defining future for really all industry in America. So think about these individuals as centaurs or super soldiers. They're people, so they provide this wonderful guest experience, but they're empowered by AI and predictive analytics. So they're able to meet guests where they are and provide them this amazing frictionless journey. Some of our guests choose just an AI solution. Some choose just a human solution, and some default to. So if the AI begins and then something goes wrong, your cell phone cuts out or whatever, the human will finish, but they'll pick up right where the technology left off.
Okay. So do you maybe want to give us some use cases or some examples of how that plays out?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the best case scenario is if you think about removing friction from your life. You have a McDonald's background, I do too. We knew at McDonald's that 70% of our customers came from 3 minutes out. So guests who are ordering takeout are looking for convenience. This has been accelerated by COVID, but it's existed for decades. So
Right.
if you're ordering off premise or drive-through, you really are primarily looking for convenience, and you're almost always in your car. So a digital solution, which we're big proponents of, digital online and mobile apps, and we empower those apps, by the way, with voice behind them to make them easier. But that's typically difficult from the car. So now you would simply in your car say, hey, whatever your voice AI is, call Chipotle. When you call Chipotle, you're going to have our technology answer the phone. Hi, Kevin. Welcome back. Last time you had this. Do you want that again?
Okay.
No. So think about that, right?
Right.
I know your preferences. No, I want this, this, and this. Okay, great. Can I get you this? No, I don't want that. All right, now I'll collect your payment. Okay, so now you've had this frictionless voice experience that allows you to order in advance. You're paid in advance, so you get to cut the line when you arrive.
Right. Interesting. No, I think that's really cool. And I think especially, well, nowadays, like how, actually, we'll get in that in a second. Give us a couple other examples of how current customers use their technology.
Yeah, so the sexy part is what I just told you, it's the ordering part.
Right.
So, for example, Mod Pizza sits on a different piece of technology we have called Sync Voice, which is just a different type of automation technology. Again, that has the enhanced rapid reorder feature. So it'll recognize you. It'll give us some background on you ahead of time. It will offer you that the previous order or stored order, and then take your order from end to end, take your payment from end to end, set up your curbside experience from end to end. And now with that, we can start to inject what we're calling Sync Vault payment, so text to pay. We can start to inject through our partnership with Telenav predictive analytics on where you are and when you'll arrive. We can track you if you want, so we can align production with arrival. And finally, we can announce your arrival and have that food waiting in a locker, which we call new through or drive through for the rest of us. So if you think about it, it's a drive through like experience where you pre-order, prepay, and then you'll pick up the food in a locker. We're actually deploying this in January. You'll pick up in a locker that your phone will just open it as you're walking up. So you have a drive-through like experience, and you don't need a drive-through on the building.
Interesting. Well, and I guess that does play perfectly into the next thing I was going to say is like, how has COVID kind of changed or sped up some of the technology in your business? And I guess like that's the perfect example of something that for COVID and kind of beyond, right? That is probably really been driving the idea behind that, or walk us through how you came up with that idea and why you think it's going to be really successful.
Well, it was long before that, Kevin. That's a great point. So I can prove that that this was going on a long time before.
Okay.
I had a TED Talk keynote at the International Franchise Association in February of 2019. And if you go watch that, it's online. People come to me and today say, they say, Steve, you knew COVID was coming. I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea. Those trends existed long before COVID. The trend towards frictionless convenience has existed for at least a decade. People, as long as people don't have enough time, they always want things faster and cheaper. That's always going to be the case, right?
Yep.
So, but what COVID did was it hit a big red reset button. What it did was dramatically accelerate. So the industry, is typically an industry that technology forgot. It's a bunch of disintegrated, fragmented solutions from a number of suppliers that aren't really guest-centric, and the restaurants are busy and they don't have time to fully integrate them with the guest in mind and keeping that guest experience top of mind. So what COVID did was it said, hey, all bets are off. He who has the best solution wins. And, we were one of the companies that had one of the best solutions. So, we've more than doubled in size.
Wow. Interesting. So how do you guys stay ahead of that curve? Because to double in size during a pandemic staying alive during a pandemic as a business is challenging enough, never mind growing in size. So like, how do you stay up on top of what's up and coming and make sure you're ahead of the curve, and sure, like if you were predicting this well before even COVID started, you knew it was coming. It sounds like COVID just kind of sped it up.
It did. And I want to go back just a little bit. And
okay.
How blessed I feel that we're in such a great position, because when this whole thing started, we had no idea. We had clients calling us and telling us that they couldn't pay us. And I said, listen, as long as you promise to keep your people working, I'll give you whatever terms you need. And what I would tell you is my clients are the absolute heroes of the industry, man. We did a rough calculation just about a month ago, and we believe that our restaurant clients have saved over 250,000 restaurant jobs. And
wow,
just
that's great.
A small part of that, man, it's humbling and it's unbelievable.
Sure.
But to your question, so I want to give them props.
Yeah, makes sense.
To your question, we always work with the thought leaders, Noah Glass at Olo and folks like that who are always at the cutting edge of restaurant technology, many, many others. So we're fortunate to run in those circles. We believe in collaborating with the best. Our clients, we listen to them and they are brilliant. So really all you have to do to figure out what's next is talk to your friends. So on the technology side, they have all the solutions. And on the restaurant side, they know exactly what the guests want. So really what we've done effectively has been a good broker of that. Just a good steward of delivering for the restaurants what the guests are articulating in a way that's affordable, fast, and effective.
No, makes a lot of sense, right? And it's good that you're taking your clients' feedback and shaping the future of the company then, correct?
Yes. It's the only way to do it because they have the pulse of the guest every day.
Interesting. So all the data and stuff that you collect, how does a restaurant or, well, I guess, and or management or somebody higher up in the company leverage that data? Do they have access to it? What can they do with it? And what kind of reporting is around it?
Yeah. So first and foremost, we never sell that data. We never share it with anyone else. We have
Okay.
a data lake that's a repository of everything about our clients. And with that, we use that to, for example, there's the least sexy automation, which is an avatar that sits in the background and helps a live human hear that. It can detect in your voice an intonation that says you're getting stressed out right now because I'm talking too much.
Oh, interesting.
And it can tell the agent that. It can predict what you might buy, what we might be able to upsell you, those types of things. So I think that's a big part of the whole equation. But more importantly, so that, again, that's not sexy AI. Nobody can see that, but it makes the experience that much better.
Sure.
From the reporting perspective, we've just tied all that together because now it's more like a data ocean. I mean, we'll do nearly 50 million automated transactions this year.
Wow.
That's just automated.
Right.
And we have over 1,000 agents taking calls every day. So I can't even tell you how many that is.
Sure.
It's a bigger number, but the automation's growing faster than the humans. So that data is now kind of a data ocean, and we've strapped on a Power BI on the front of that. So our clients now, we used to have, our client success managers used to kind of sift through that data and prepare reports for them. We still do that, but we mostly just give them the tool and let them parse the data any way they want, which is so powerful because they can see every trend as it's happening in real time.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I think that's really great, right? Because the best way to predict and understand what's going well, what needs improvement is in the data, correct?
Yes, absolutely. The guests tell you what they want and you just store it. Now I have serious concerns about using that data in other ways, but certainly it belongs to our clients and they should use it to give you a better guest experience. So that's what we do with it. And what I see us doing with it for as long as I'm around.
No, makes sense. So how do you, though, decide which ideas that you get from your clients to actually pursue and ones to maybe table to revisit later, or just say like, nah, that's not really what we want to get into? Because that's got to be tricky sometimes with some of these clients.
Oh yeah, my clients will tell you my employees will tell you that I need to take more time off because I'm an early riser and I come up with 5 ideas before 4 a.m. And some of them are pretty stupid. So I think the key point there is, and I learned this, from the greats that I mentioned before, Brent and Tom Ryan and Mats Lederhausen, and you really have to know what you know and know what you don't know. And with that in mind, you have to understand that restaurants don't have limitless budgets. So we kind of adopt let's shoot the big game first, right? So we'll take 5 or 6 ideas. Like new-through is going to be the hottest thing you ever saw because it's now drive-through for the rest of us. I'm telling you right now, in 6 months, you're going to want to do a thing on new-through because we're going to be able to put drive-throughs on every restaurant in America. And that's a game-changing technology. It's a big deal. So that's, if you think about that, that's the big thing right now. To get there, you have to have voice automation because if you don't have voice automation, you can't capture enough orders. So the first thing you do is layer on the voice automation. Well, then you got to have payment or it's not going to be frictionless. So you got to solve for. Then you do that. Then after that, you want to improve that. So you want to strap on geo so that you can predict when the customer is going to arrive. You want to strap on the lockers so that they can open just as you step out of your car. Those kinds of things. So you do it sequentially and you use the profits. It was fundamental to our thinking at transforming McDonald's. When I left McDonald's, we had the longest streak of positive comp months in the history of the company, 141 consecutive months.
Wow.
By deploying this philosophy. Bag the big game first, and then build on things that support it. But get the money up front, use that money to support the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Got you. Okay, interesting. So when you say put a basically like a drive-through on every restaurant, how does that work? Do they have to put up money up front then? Is it like a commission model, or how do you guys monetize that?
No, we're just about taking the orders, man. So
okay.
This is a digital ordering solution. We'll introduce them to one of the three big locker companies. We've got a favorite in that race,
okay.
Telepic. But you basically put the locker where it makes the most sense in the restaurant. So it could literally be a restaurant in a strip mall, and you could put it in the front door. You put a parking stall right next to the locker, and now you have a parallel or non-linear drive-through. So if three of us all pull up at the same time, it only takes less than 10 seconds to take the food out of the locker. The food is already prepared because we know when you're arriving.
Right.
It's hot because it's put in there just in time. It's secure because only you can get to it.
Right.
And then you step out of your car, you grab your food, you can leave your kids in the car because you're not but 2 feet away.
Right. Interesting.
So in some ways, it's more convenient than drive-through, especially when you see these massive drive-through lines today being caused by COVID.
Sure. No, interesting. Yeah, I agree. I think even just the like mobile ordering and the curbside kind of pickup has seemed to kind of take off, right? Where I think 5 or 10 years ago, there's been companies that kind of tried that, but it didn't seem to go anywhere. But like now you see people in those things all the time, right? And you're basically just adding another layer to that and making it even more convenient for people.
Right. More convenient for the staff and for the guest. Better, cheaper, faster, hotter.
Yeah. And safer.
Removing all the friction from it. So we think it's a really big disruptive technology. This year, 42% of all restaurant transactions have gone through a drive-through. I can't wait till that's 80. And this is the way to get to 80 or 90. Now, remember, Kevin, this isn't about using my service. It's all digital pre-ordering. So This is about driving digital. We want to drive online, mobile, digital voice, call ahead, prepay, so the guest engages in all those activities. So they're really our partner in eliminating the friction.
Yeah, you're right. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense, right? That's it. It's almost like giving back full control to the guest, right? And whoever's ordering the food, right? It's like, well, you can order it or get it however you want, and you can choose, right?
It's that simple, man. We say we meet the guests where they are and take them where they want to go.
Sure. Because like, I get some people probably love the idea, like myself, like I want you to know where I am so it can be ready when I get there. I get some people don't like that much tracking. I like those conveniences. So, but it's nice to be able to kind of cherry pick the functions and features that I like based on what's available, right?
Yeah. So if you think about just that, so I'm the guy who doesn't want to be tracked, right? I'm the guy who didn't well have. And because you've invested in that, because you've taken your time to do that, I don't have to wait behind you. So in fact, my experience is better. And, we've seen that in the digital Chipotle restaurants. We support all the Chipotle restaurants with this. Okay. And it's remarkable what you see because, if you're a guest standing in line there, you get to say, oh, just a little more beans. Oh, no, less sour cream, whatever, right? You get that. You get that designer experience. But for me, I'm hunting when I go there. So I've done it all in advance. I walk to the counter, I cut the line, I wave at you over there in your lineup, getting your beans exactly the way you want them. And the point is, I don't care. I want both of you to get a great experience. But why should you be waiting in line behind me?
Yeah, fair. Interesting. No, I agree. It's kind of like in some ways, and it kind of sounds stupid now, but it's like, why hasn't it always been done like that? And I get technology had to catch up and blah, blah, blah. But like, you know what I'm getting at there, right? Like it in a lot of cases, I think a lot of people have wanted some of this stuff for a lot of period or a lot of time, or like the choice, right? Of what they want to do. Because you might want that experience at like a fast food type restaurant, but like at a different type of restaurant, or maybe even a different fast food restaurant, you might want to wait in line because you have a specific thing that you want to make sure you get, right? Like, so
Absolutely.
it's almost like restaurant specific then.
Well, I think that's very insightful, Kevin, but I think it's more than restaurant specific. It's use occasion specific.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
So, for example, if I'm taking my kid to his football game
Yeah.
and I've only got 15 minutes,
Yeah.
I'm kind of stuck in a drive-through. Well, you can use this technology to order ahead and dine in. So you can order
Right.
ahead on a restaurant on the route, have the food waiting when you arrive, eat it in the restaurant, and be out and drive through like convenience. Now, it was my anniversary last night. If I would have done that to my wife,
Congrats.
it ended. So it's all use occasion specific.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. Yeah. Right. You're right. Because you're right. Like sometimes you want to go, you're just in a hurry because you have something. Sometimes you want the whole night or you have a bunch of time. Yeah. No, that's interesting. So I'm curious then, how long does it take to roughly onboard a new restaurant? I get that it's probably really dependent on what technology and services they want, but
About
is it
six.
usually like weeks or months, or walk us through that process?
It's about 6 weeks.
Okay, so it's not long at all.
If they have a robust modern infrastructure APIs, they're on one of the leading online ordering systems like an Olo. They have a leading point of sale system. It's all about the APIs and API
Right.
and SDK integrations, and then bringing the people up to speed, learning the menu, creating the training programs. We've got that down for a brand to get that done in 6 to 8 weeks, really end to end.
Okay, and then is it like a monthly subscription, or what's your pricing model for that?
Well, it typically depends upon the interaction. I mean, we
Okay.
have clients that have 7 different lines of business with us. In a nutshell, we do catering, we do takeout. In a nutshell, it all depends how you want the service. So if it's high-end people on a very high-touch environment and it's a long transaction, it's going to cost more than if it's an automated low touch transaction that's 90 seconds long. I mean, one cost might be under $1 and the other might be five.
Okay, got you.
But it's
Interesting.
almost always success based. It's almost always if we get this, then you get that, and then you pay that.
Okay. So for and I'm assuming you're probably on more on the catering side of things. Like, how does it work for maybe some of like the non kind of fast food type places? Obviously, you can have this drive-through service that you've been mentioning, but how does it work for like a sit-down restaurant or somewhere where majority of their clientele actually go and physically sit in a restaurant? Do you
Yeah,
have
we
products
have
around that?
Yeah, we have iconic brands, right? Like Red Lobster and Portillo's, and that are California Pizza Kitchen, that are sit down restaurants.
Okay.
So they already do a lot of off premise takeout, and that is generally today delivered curbside or carry out.
Right.
But we also can deploy order ahead, dine in. So when you think about as COVID restrictions start to lift, this trend is going to become more and more prevalent, right?
Right.
Because you want that sit down experience, but you don't necessarily want the extended time so that you wind up sitting in a booth next to coffin guy.
Yep.
Uh, I think people are going to be sensitive to that for a long time. So you can get that full service dining experience um, by just taking a few minutes on your way and ordering the food ahead and then dining in.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, I guess that doesn't really matter whether it's a sit down restaurant or fast food, right? I get fast food
Yeah.
has sit down, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but we really focus on off premise today, and that's really what people are buying today. I just see that morph to more expedited on premise in the future.
Interesting. So do you think then, and obviously this is just a guess, that some of those, because some restaurants, they have a lot of physical space. Do you think restaurant sizes might shrink then, at least for
Yes,
certain chains?
absolutely going to happen. The restaurant of the future is a Ferrari, not a bus.
Interesting. Okay. And I'm curious then, like, did you see that trend happening before COVID, or has COVID kind of sped that up? Or what are your thoughts around that prediction?
Yeah, we've always thought that was coming, that they were overseated a little bit.
Okay.
That was something the restaurateurs noticed. That was developing. Sit down restaurants were overseated by 30 or 40% 3 years ago. So that was already started, but it has dramatically accelerated. Now with the advent of third-party delivery and ghost kitchens and all that, I really imagine the restaurant of the future is going to be a much smaller dining room, a much bigger kitchen, that's able to produce a lot more food very quickly for a variety of use occasions and distribution methodologies. So yeah, I think there'll be smaller, more nimble, bigger engines, like a sports car versus a bus.
Got you. Okay. It also seems like even before COVID, more and more restaurants and even places that I would consider fast food have doing kind of catering too, right? Which is, so therefore, like, obviously they would need a bigger kitchen as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been a very successful line of business for us. Obviously, during the peak of COVID, that
Sure.
started to wane, and many of the companies that were solely focused on catering are gone now. And we're amping up a big catering division as we speak, because as people come back for moms, dads, and grads, and we get out of this 2020 nightmare, there's going to be more and more business to consumer catering.
Right.
And then by the fall, we really see, hey, they're going to want you back in the office, bud. So how better than to get you back in the office, but to feed you? So we're going to craft a catering program around that. That's high frequency, high return. And the fun thing about catering is, if you think about it, that you think about your kitchen as a factory that produces food.
Okay.
That capacity is underutilized pre-lunch and pre-dinner.
Right.
That's when you're preparing the catering orders. So it
Right.
makes it a very profitable line of business to be in.
Got you. Yeah. Interesting. Any other predictions that we might see in the next 3 to 5 years that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I think the biggest one is, and this is societal,
Okay.
is really about the effect of automation. It's funny, when I talk to the genius technology companies, and I mean this, I have all the gadgets you can imagine. When you talk to the Googles and the like, they're just absolutely brilliant. But their lens is that automation is like a light switch. It's binary. You
Okay.
turn it on or you turn it off. It's either on or it's off. And if it's on, 100% of the transaction is automated. If it's off, it's not. And see, I see the world as a dimmer. I see the future as being one where humans, empowered by predictive analytics and AI, are able to be that much more effective, that much more productive, that much more profitable. So the integration of the two is going to be what really changes our society. And I think for the better. There's all these dire predictions about it eliminating jobs. When we started our automation journey, I employed less than 200 people. Today, I employ more than 1,100.
Wow.
So automation has not taken a job. It's dramatically accelerated our hiring. And more importantly, the automation and the predictive analytics take out the boring and mundane. And the humans can focus on that high touch, high impact transaction. So I think you're going to see people I think the biggest trend in our society will be more towards that kind of centaur mentality where humans are empowered by technology to do better.
No, I agree with you. I think it's interesting that you say that, because I think like nobody likes doing the boring parts of their job. And if they can do the better, more engaging, more fun parts of their job, then, and they can offload the other stuff to automation. Like we're so far away from automating 100% of somebody's job, if it ever happens at all. Right. And so I think the fear of all that for majority of industries is, it's just kind of this like fear that like maybe that'll happen. But to your point, I think you're right. Like people expect just to be handled a certain way. Some of that stuff can very much be automated. And then if I choose or want or need to talk to somebody real, then I get passed over to that. Right. And I think that's just going to be the new normal in a couple of years, right? It's going to be in everything that we do and everything we interact with.
Kevin, it's here today, but more as importantly, that individual is now enhanced by AI and predictive analytics. So they can provide you better service because they know more. They understand the sentiment that you're feeling right now. They know the products and goods and services that you like. So they'll be able to provide you with a richer guest experience because of that. Now, it's interesting because of my military background. My old roommate at West Point, a 3-star general named Ed Cardone, really ran Cyber Command for a few years. And watching what they've done with it, if you think about this in a military context, it makes so much sense, right? So a predator drone identifies the enemy in the open. They do a target lock. They want to engage that enemy. Well, a human is looking there and they say, hey, wait a second, there's 3 friendlies in there. Yeah. And they call it off. That's stark and that's easy. It's also morbid. But in the context of a buying decision, shopping, dining, and remember, we're setting the context for something you do more than 1,000 times a year. So when people get used to this context in their restaurant ordering experience, it will easily spill over into the other areas of your life where you have to set a doctor's appointment or you have to buy something else. You'll say, oh, that's just like what I do in my favorite restaurant.
Right. Interesting.
So we'll be on the vanguard of that transformation because you do it so much more often than you do those other things.
No, that makes a lot of sense, but we're kind of coming to the end of the show. So how about we close with mentioning where people can get more information about you guys and any other links you want to mention?
Yeah, I think for us, it's www.synq3.com, SYNQ, the number 3.com. It's that simple. There's a contact us page. There's an overview of all the goods and services we have, our philosophies. You can learn anything you want. You can get right to me or Matt through that site.
Perfect, Steve. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day, man.
Kevin, thanks so much. It was a hoot.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Please visit our website at buildingthefutureshow.com to join the free community, sign up for our newsletter, or to sponsor the show. The music is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.